Welcome to an EDM 310 broadcast presented by Jamie Baxter and Thomas Leytham. Today we are discussing a topic presented to us by Mark Prinsky. It is education just for tomorrow, or is it for the rest of our students' lives? And how will technology affect the future of education? So first we want to discuss what Prinsky was talking about in this topic. So Jamie, would you please summarize a little bit what Mr. Prinsky was discussing?
Pritzky explains in Teaching Digital Natives how different students learn today. He shows that digital natives are the children that have grown up with technology. They play video games, watch TV, have a library on their computer, and access to the internet any time of the day on their cell phones. It is harder for these students to sit through a boring lecture. They need to have fun with a game to learn what the teacher is trying to teach.
So basically, these students are just living and breathing technology. They already are innovative. They're born into it almost.
That's right.
Yeah. So this is what Prinsky's been discussing, and we have several questions that we were asked to bring this up. And Jamie actually would like to point out some evidence that supports the findings of Mr. Prinsky. So what do you have to say?
I found an article on the internet called The Digital Classroom, and it gives an example of how a calculator is used in the classroom. The graphing calculator is being embedded into the lesson plans of many math teachers. This allows students less time doing small calculations, solving equations, and plotting graphs, and more time of making sense of the mathematical data and comparing the data. This is just one example of how students use a small form of technology in the classroom today.
So calculators are an interesting form of technology. They've actually been around for quite some time. In fact, graphing calculators have been around, I think, for the past 20 years now. What do you think about using cell phones in the classroom? Because that's a very innovative technology at this time.
I don't think cell phones would be okay for a classroom because they could surf the internet and play games when they're not supposed to be doing that. So I think they need to stick with something that they can't access more than just what they need for that classroom.
And we also want them to be interested in the topics we're discussing and having fun as it is, so we don't want necessarily for them to be looking for other ways to have fun and
Exactly.
ignoring the information. Yeah.
So I have another question for you, Thomas. Do you agree with Prinsky's assessment?
I agree with his assessment that we have to use technology as teachers to help our students in the future. I'm not sure I agree with it to the full extent that he presents it as. First of all, there are numerous issues when we have developing technology that we can't necessarily keep up with technology at the level that our students would need us to. It's just there are so many conflicts with us not only learning new technology and constantly learning new technology, but actually being able to teach new technology consistently. That becomes a little bit more difficult. So some technologies need to be, set back, and we want to at least get the base information. We don't want to be just teaching technology, but rather teaching our students the concepts and utilizing the technology to teach the concepts. And I think that Prinsky is more concerned a little bit about teaching the technology over necessarily teaching the concepts. What do you think about that, Jamie?
I agree with you and Prinsky, but I think the teachers need to change to accommodate the students. If the students learn one way, it is hard to go backwards and learn the way the teachers teach. The teacher can learn how to use technology and use it to the fullest in the classroom, but they need to bring the technology and the use of the programs available for learning on the internet to the classroom as well. If a teacher wants his or her students to learn the material, and the best way they can learn is through a game, then let the students learn that material that way.
Oh, so yeah, I agree on that extent. In fact, I think that brings us to our final question, where we were asked to, how must teachers and teaching change? How must these things change? And what do you think about that? I personally was considering that for teachers to change, we need to be able to become more innovative. Not necessarily that we're using more technology, but that we are coming up with projects that are fun and keep us, our students, entertained, but while at the same time learning. I have a ton of useless knowledge. I know so many Simpsons episodes, it's ridiculous. And the reason that I know them and have the episodes memorized, even though I have no use for it at all, is because it was something that I found interesting and hilarious and fun, and I was able to remember it. And I feel the same way about projects when I was in school. The projects that I remember the most and learned from the most were the ones that were fun and the ones that were boring and weren't innovative kind of fell apart. What do you think about that?
I agree with you. Like, I can remember a song like nothing, and I also remember in third grade when I learned all my 50 states, and it was a
Did you
song.
learn it with a song?
Yeah.
I did learn it with a song as well. So
I still remember that.
I did go in alphabetical order.
No, it went down the map.
Oh, it went down the map. Oh, that's even more intriguing. Mine's alphabetical order, so I'm always like, I know the alphabetical order. Whenever Jeopardy asks that question, that's totally useless and not effective for anybody. So, well, I think that is all the questions that we were presented with about this topic. Do you have any final remarks about Mr. Prinsky's works or anything interesting that you found?
I was just going to say that I think that technology is definitely being used in the classrooms today. It probably is not as much as it needs to be, but I can see the change. I graduated from the University of Alabama in 2008, and none of my classrooms had smart boards. And I did not go to school for 5 years, and in those 5 years, almost every classroom in college has smart boards now. So I just think it's interesting that technology is being used in the classroom today.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I'm glad that we're moving forward and not moving backwards. So I think that concludes our podcast. Thanks for listening.